So, Christopher Bowers, what's gone well today? New tools for engagement.
Well, what's gone well is I'm stoked to be here. I thank so much Chris for allowing me to come here. As a teacher in public education, you know, I told my students, I have to, a confession. I told them, we were told, there's no such thing as a stupid question. Actually, when you really hit the streets, there's a lot of stupid questions out there. And one of the worst is, how you doing? Jeremy Rifkin just put out a book called The Empathic Civilization, great 500-pager. He said this: we live in a world in which getting and holding one another's attention becomes paramount, and relationship of all kinds becomes central to our existence. A new dictum has developed. It used to be, I think, therefore I am. He says the new one is, I am connected, therefore I exist. You know, my sense is, if I only have 22 seconds to cross the street, because the sign says I have to stop and then proceed, I'm going to use those 22 seconds with a great question. My whole thing is curiosity and asking great questions. Because when we do that, we open up doors. And it's so exciting. I created a nonprofit called Conversation Works. And it really is to help bring tools, to help bring people and ideas together. And it really creates, my aim is to create a shift in our culture. The new word that when I actually heard about it 10 years ago is a meme. A meme is a sticky cultural idea. Something like, you know, you deserve a break today. Once you hear that, you won't forget it. You might not go there, but you won't forget the thing. And so, you know, people have short-term memory because they're so busy. So the meme I created was, what's gone well today? I went to a church meeting one time, it was about gratitude. And so, as I was walking away with it, because I think gratitude is a cool idea, the phrase came to me. I could ask people, what's gone well today? I could think about it myself. So in the middle of my busy day, or those days that are a little humdrum, I can stop and ask myself that question. So that's a little teaser. So it's the power of questions. And the interesting thing is that a lot of people don't ask the right question. So anybody who asks good questions has an edge. Has anybody here's life changed because of a question? Is anyone's project? We have one. I got one. I'm looking for. No, it doesn't. You can't. Rose is just scratching her head. Doesn't count. Yeah, I got 2. Anybody more? 3. Absolutely. 4. Exactly. It's rolling. You know, I'll give you an example. You know, people ask me. I do these workshops a fair bit, and I'm passionate. You might tell about this kind of stuff. And so wherever I go, like elevators. Now I know there's a code of silence, but I have to confess, that's my second confession that I break it. CIBC building has 11 stories, I hear. I got on the 10th. I dropped down one floor, this woman got on, 30-ish or so, and I said, see, I have more than one question in mind. You know, people ask me, how do you drag out elicit these golden stories? You have to be culturally and contextually sensitive. So, here's this woman in the elevator by myself. Aha. And so I had a Christmas concert coming up that I was emceeing. So I explained, hey, you have to give a bit of a little introduction, right? Otherwise I think you're loopy. So I said, you know, I'm emceeing this party, a Christmas party, and so I have one question for you. What is the best gift you've ever given or received? Like that, she said. Well, that would be the gift of time. That would do something for somebody else. I said, thanks very much. The elevator opened, she left, I left, never saw her again. I couldn't even pick her out of the lineup. But I took that idea, went home to my daughter, who was around 19 or 20, and said, Ashley, here's your next business. You know what I called it? The gift of time. House cleaning and organizing. Well, she's done so well. It's been great. And she's learning so much. If you haven't got a job, just start a business. Right? And then you'll get all that experience. Here's another example. just shows that what you can unlock. And what I'm trying to do is psych you up about this stuff. So another place, so we've done the elevators, another place that people often don't talk are departure lounges. This is BC Ferries. On a Friday afternoon, or maybe it's a Friday, and I'm looking around. Whenever I'm in a room, honest, I say, who should I talk to? I'm a strategic guy. And I don't know why I talk this. Of all the people, it was crowded. This old guy was sitting there, dressed in black, asleep. So I thought, there's my face. Remember, I am not loopy. So when they announced, that famous announcement, ladies and gentlemen, we're now boarding, I thought, the old dude's asleep. What should I do? I should just leave him sleep, right? Let him miss this boat. I gave him the elbow. I said, hey, do you want to get on the boat? And then, so here's, we start, culturally sensitive. You have to be respectful. You know, so I asked him this question. We're walking along, and I'm not going to say how you doing because that's stupid. I'm going to say, you know, in your life, he said, well, he's waking up, he's moving slowly. I said, what's one moment in your career that stood out? Do you know who this guy? That's an ordinary question, right? Do you know who that guy was? You're wrong. Here it is, Ben Metcalf. Ben Metcalf was one of the founders of Greenpeace.
Oh.
Unbelievable. He wrote the eulogy for my mother-in-law when she passed on the front page of the Vancouver Sun. I have goosebumps. Ben is a recluse, was a recluse, living in Shawnigan Lake. We talked for how long? 90 minutes. The whole trip was Ben and I in conversation. Unbelievable. When I went back to teaching in Campbell River, where I was at the time, you know, I found someone who was associated with Haig Brown, and they were really interested in information about Ben. One question leads to untold resources and great meaning. But here's an example. When I was a young dad, you know, oh yay, going for a walk with my son, it takes so long to walk a block because he's walking down every sidewalk. But he learned to read because he would go up to cars and he would wanted to read the names of the cars. It took a long time to walk a block. So now I think, oh, I've got to talk to somebody. So we walked to the park and we said, oh, there's another toddler. So I put one toddler beside the other toddler, three-ish, sort of toddler. And I thought, oh good, they'll hang out and I can talk to the dad. There's no hangout. Two toddlers side by side. You know what they say? Nothing. It's parallel play. Now what's cool is, that's the same thing as elevators. It's the same thing as cocktail parties. It's the same thing sometimes, not this room, but you put two adults on a bus side by side, or a plane side by side, or some couple side by side out for dinner. They don't talk. And that's the same thing. So we've got to break out. We've got to give people new tools to engage, and the rewards are boundless. Oh, now here's a caveat. Someone mentioned that word. I like that word. A little tip. You know, some questions are outright dangerous. I'm going to share one, and you'll know. I'll just tell you straight up. I only have 10 minutes. There's no time to waste. So I talk really fast. No. So I went to personal counseling, not because I'm loopy, but because I needed a bit of a shift in my thinking. 1988, 1989, that time frame. So the counselor asked me this dangerous question, which don't ask somebody unless you really mean it. What's your bliss? I said solitude. First of all, I didn't know what the question meant, which is really dangerous. So she explained it. At $90 an hour, she should. So I said solitude. I think within 6 months. Now I had one of the world's coolest jobs. I was a computer consultant at a school. We were doing cutting edge stuff. They were rearranging the school because of me, etc. I left that school, and within 6 months we moved to a farm, a hobby farm, 10 clicks north of Courtenay. As I was driving out there one day, I thought, what the hell am I doing? Because, see, I answered my question. What was my answer? Oh. I eventually, after about 15 years, I changed the answer. I changed it to laughter and connection. We soon moved from Courtenay, which is a very pretty, culturally rich place, to Victoria, which has just the right amount of buzz for me. So there's a question that you have to be careful of. So people ask me, how do you bring out the golden stories? You gotta be sensitive to the culture and the context. You gotta give people a little sense of why you're talking to them. And once you do, it's amazing what you can get away with. And people will tell you wonderful things. But I asked this one guy, who turned out to be a Grand Master for the Masons. So I was just walking in the BC Ferries, which I consider a floating conference center, because no one's doing anything really except sleeping, and they're there for me to work with. So I said, what's a moment that stood out for you? And it turned out that he was a military attaché for Trudeau at some point in his career, and he told me about another stunning story, and then he said, I normally talk to strangers. After 45 minutes, he told me, and he said, but here's the key, and I'm not even going to charge for this. He said, you had a nice face, and you listened. So if you're going to ask a question, you know the trouble with how you do it? Because by the time I actually feel like answering, they're already down the hall. I'm fine. You know. So if you actually listen, you have that body language. So I want a little added information. I'm the story catcher of Victoria. And the reason that works is because even with a camera, we can get past the video and knowing that their stuff might go on YouTube, etc. Because you have that body language which invites that sense of openness and wonder. And then people will open up and tell you these great things. So I'll tell you a couple of cool, powerful questions. And one of them is, maybe I won't. I already told you a couple. One is, what's a moment that stood out? It's amazing, you know, if you're hip to where people are at. Like I saw this lady who was, I never quite judged, maybe she's 70-ish or so, walking along. I said, you got time for my question of the day? So there's my warm-up. So it stopped her. And then I said, you know, as you think back as a mother, this is a cold call, think back as a mother, what's one thing you've done that really stood out to you? 1 minute. Yikes, I won't even tell you. Okay, so my overall aim is to create empathetic organizations. And so we created, and the lovely Colleen Stevenson and I, who's a wonderful collaborator, put your hand up, Colleen, thank you. And I worked through, created 18 metaphors to help create empathy, you know, caring. So we're creating the tools to help people who are too busy to come up with some of the questions themselves. So here's a couple of the metaphors we're coming up with. Developing intimacy. So if you want to develop intimacy, we'll give you a card which has about 6 of the questions. And one of them is, what's a recent adventure? Another one is breaking out. You know that it takes a chick about 10,000 pecks to get out of an egg? So I ask this question of some people. What's a turnaround in your day? What's a turnaround in your life? Those are the kind of questions that can really engage with people. Or making choices. Now these questions are designed so that if you have to interact with the public at all, and you only have one question to do it, what could you ask them? So here's one of them. How do you deal with surprises? What do you mean, I'm a surprise? So we invite you to join our movement. You can do it without talking to anybody. You can just ask yourself, at any point in your day, what's gone well? You can go to our website, what'sgonewelltoday.com, and post your responses. We have wonderful things. Thanks for your patience. Thanks for your time. It's been a blast.